Hi, so in today's video, I'll be telling you more about shortcuts. I'll be telling you more about, those moments in my life when I was studying and I couldn't make something, and then, being desperate and wearing false masks and pretending that you can do something that you actually cannot. So my star sign is Aries, and Aries don't like to wear false identities. And when they do, they just, don't like themselves for that. Uh, yeah, so I will tell you how I was walking over my own, value because I was doing that too. So, yeah, it's next part of my story, and next part of a story depicted in my book Piglet. So, if you want to learn more about the way it, taking shortcuts look like in my life, then stay tuned. And we are starting with my thesis. So. When I was writing my thesis, I needed some error correction, and I asked a native speaker to do proofreading for me. But later I have learned that this is a natural thing. When you work with translation into English and you are not a native, then it's normal that you have a proofreader who does that proofreading for you. But when I asked the first time to have this proofreading done, I just didn't know it was normal and it was a standard thing to do. So I felt really, really, self-pity, and I felt like as if I had no skills, and I always wanted to know something. I always wanted to know something, and I always wanted to, have a lot of interesting quotes to choose from and have a lot of interesting quotes to share. This is what I always, needed and wanted to contribute to the conversation, to have those, a lot of references from interesting books that I could, recall in a conversation and share in a conversation. That was the something that I saw value in. So when I paid for error correction, I felt really, really bad. And later on, it wasn't any better. So, during studies, we had a man who looked like a freshman, and he didn't know clearly how to teach. And I remember he gave us a homework to do. He gave us a homework, and the homework had a deadline. And when I was doing the homework, I was late like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe at most 15. But to finish the entire task, it had to take longer than that. So he knew it for a fact. I started much earlier than 12 at night. So he told me he didn't count my homework as passed, as received, because I was just those 5 or 10 minutes late. And all of a sudden, I got 5 pages of economical translation, and that homework he gave us was just based on creative from questions. So what I got had no comparison with what was our main task. I got a much bigger thing to do all of a sudden, and I was always much better, dealing with stories and dealing with articles, but not something that was technical. So that was yet another time when I asked my proofreader to do this task for me. And I paid him for this, and then I hated myself for it. It was yet another offense from me to me for not showing up for myself, for taking a shortcut. Yeah. and just building yet another, secret and mystery that I have never shared with anyone, other than in my book when I was just coming out with everything I have done that was wrong. Um, yeah, and then with the same man. I just can't recall his surname, but it's not the most important, obviously. But with the same man who taught me this translation and didn't know how to teach, he had no skills. He did the exam with us, and I opened a different file because I received a different file, and I got stressed. So I asked if I could receive what everyone else received, and he was like, no. And I didn't understand why. Why would you not give me what everybody else received, I wanted to have what everybody else received so that I could, just ask for, hey, what do you have in the sentences in anything? Which is not the typical behavior of mine because I was always, short-sighted and I could never cheat on exams. Only during mature exam. During math mature exam, I managed to cheat. And during that exam, with the man who didn't want to give me the task, the assignment that everybody else got. So I got nervous, and I went online on Facebook and I asked a native speaker, Colin, to help me, and Colin helped me. But this was second time in my life when I was doing it, and I felt yet again like this this cheater. I just didn't like it. And he also gave us the text. He put us into groups, and he told us to do oral translation from Polish into English, as far as I remember. And I was really, really scared of that. Why? Because during that time, I had really problems with building an utterance, with speaking to people. That was a great challenge for me because I was lacking words. I couldn't recall. It felt like I had nothing to add to the conversation, or to mention that not only I couldn't recall, the references I could always choose from, and, those books I have read, I could always relate to them and recall this one interesting quote, this one interesting sentence. Not only I couldn't do that, but I couldn't just add anything to the conversation. So yeah, that was really difficult period for me. Yeah, so when it comes to translation, I wanted to translate it first, so that I would have it done, and so that I wouldn't sit and be scared and wait for my turn. And once I did that, which for me was like overcoming my own fear, then Evelina Shalecka said, "Okay, so maybe we don't have to translate as you have translated already." And I was like, "Okay, so." My efforts to sit and feel calm was somehow, a little bit just diminished. And here comes the worst part. So during translation studies with Mr. Rabitsky, we were supposed to choose the book, and I wanted to choose the book Never Let Me Go by probably a Japanese book. I didn't know that book from the past, but as I volunteered, Evelina Shalecka was, probably the same time with me. She volunteered and I volunteered. She got that book. So the next option I chose was George Orwell, 1984. That's the book I have chosen. And we were going with Ms. Kasia Bezernik. We talked a lot about, plagiarism in translation. And, if we should or shouldn't look when we work on a book, should we open the existing translation or not? Because, it depends. It's an individual, choice. But for me, it was a very bad choice because I didn't need to, look at those words and then wonder and question myself and worry if I'm too close or not, because some sentences will really go the same way as they are translated, because there's no other, sometimes there's no way around it, no other way around it if you have to translate that sentence into Polish and it's been already translated. But when I got, when I got a very low remark, I thought I made a plagiarism. I was sure about it. I thought I would die. This was I mean, now when I look at it, when I look at my own actions and I see, the recurring, immature person just acting on false identity of, performing great when I could not, because I could not even create this fluent verbal utterance. So now I was trying to, cover this up and mask this all up, hide the fact that it was very, very hard to participate in a conversation. So it was very, very hard to, to do the basic thing, to connect with people with using words. So when I got this low grade, I was scared that I did a translation, that I did that I plagiarized the translation, but I think I didn't, because actually I was sitting on the computer and actually I was typing and I was really like, translating it. Just in my case, I think I shouldn't have consult or, check with the existing translation. I don't know, or maybe I was, too close to the existing translation. But it's a translation. You will be close, um, because then if you're not close, then you're just writing a different book. Uh, okay, so trust me, that was a very, very difficult time. Once I, thought I plagiarized, even, for, a few days, I thought that that was a very, very horrible, period in my life when I really hated myself for it. And then Evelina Szelecka would just walk behind me and say that, oh, if you plagiarize something, then you can be expelled from school, or you can even auto plagiarize yourself if you do the same homework for each and every school subject or university, subject. Okay, plagiarism. Yeah, and then here is the part I honestly and truly cannot fathom, because I really strongly felt, those few days when I thought that I plagiarized that translation, and I can't understand that later I took a part in a contest, and it was a contest where I had to write. The review on existing translation, and I could choose a book. I chose a book about war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So it was a book written by Ed Voliami, Long Lived the War. The War is Dead. Let me just. Oh, The War is Dead, Long Live the War. Yeah, in that order. And the more or less it was quite ready, and I sent it to my sister to see if she had anything to add to that text. And my sister put a lot of words in that text, and she started to work a little bit on consistency of that text. So she introduced a lot of the changes all around the text, which is not the thing you can do, in terms of when I send the text to proofreader, he works in a review, and whenever he changes anything in the text, even adding a comma or a dot, then I can see that change, and I decide if I accept it or if I don't accept it. And I also see the type of changes, if it's more about, something doesn't sound like in English, or is it more about punctuation. So I can see everything clearly. And the way what she wasn't in the review. I didn't see those changes, like, marked, this is mine and this is yours. No, she just sent me what she has done. I liked it and I sent it to the contest, and then I hated myself. um but the truth is that, very, very often, when I had to work on um, a longer writing project, then I would ask my sister for help with analysis, but we would work verbally on it, like, thinking up, and then I was just deciding how to portray it, how to depict it, and even how much space a given thought or a given idea is going to take in that entire piece, right? And the truth is, even that paper for the contest was also, done by three people, by me, by my sister, and I would also consult my photography teacher. Um, yeah, Jan Gomoa. So, and there is yet this thing that I have to tell you once again, that during that time, I really wanted to, look smart, but I couldn't most of the time just build a fluent utterance. So, I was acting as a person who was desperate to sustain the false identity of a smart person, um, which was, which was what my ego needed. But it's just it's pathetic. It's pathetic, and when I started to write my book, Piglet, I started to see how many times I have just, walk over myself, and I pretended that I, had great ideas and analysis when actually struggling with the basic functions of speaking. Okay. And that also shows you why I was acting as a desperate person. Yeah. So that was during English philology studies, and I have to tell you, when I was doing bachelor in Tarnów, then I just want to mention it quickly. It's not really related with crossing the line on my part, but Mrs. Wengel talked about Hispanic people crossing the border in the USA, just like that, and it's something that I will not comment on that yet, but I think I will put it into the article, because I also wrote about the border, and I wrote about the wall that's missing over there. She talked about horses too, and when she when Mrs. Wengel would ask you if you did the task good or wrong, she would ask you just to present the entire task. So, I was sitting and I was scared that, I marked it wrong and everybody would think that I was stupid. And then, she would ask you to present the entire activity, and then you really looked really stupid if you did the task wrong. And that was reading and comprehension class. And I remember once I wanted to just justify and tell her, why did I chose C or not B? And she said that I wanted to prove to her that she was wrong. Well, that wasn't my intention. And when it comes to Great Britain or writing and even speaking, we would have those classes with Mr. Nawrocki, and who basically, my impression was that he really didn't like me, And none of these classes were conducted in a nice way. He would actually intentionally open the file on his computer for 15 minutes. He would be looking for the file when he always had the lesson on the same in the same classroom and on the same computer. And I just presume that he had those files over there for 20 years in the same places. But well, yeah. And is there, yeah. Yeah, I told you in one of the videos when I was, preparing for phonetics, and I was ready earlier with everything, and just with one mistake, he told me I didn't pass, and he was actually pretty much happy about me failing. Um, yeah. So that was English, philology, and I also studied graphic and design, and that was a very sad choice of mine because I wasted the time because I was preparing for a year. I had a gap year. I was preparing. I was drawing every day, and I was wasting other people's energy for something that I wouldn't, first of all, finish. And for something that was, more expensive. Those studies are more expensive than any other type of studies. And for something that was not actually for me. Um, so I was putting a lot of time and energy into something that didn't work out, and basically that was yet another experience that I could perceive in my life as a failure, as a waste. But if you think about it, that in life we just go and explore various topics in various fields, then um, then maybe it's not such a big waste. And actually, when drawing, I have learned I have learned something very useful. I have learned to look and understand their perspective, their proportions, and I was good at grasping people's character on paper. So I think, with practice, with experience, there's a different type of understanding that comes to us, a different type of understanding, visual, um, visual, landscape, and changes that come to that we can introduce to a given landscape when we introduce, for example, a different color to a picture, a painting, and so on. So colors have their own temperature, and they are correlated, they're coexisting to each other. So you learn something about seeing and perceiving the outside world when you learn from experience. Um, so yeah, so today I don't think it was a failure, but for a long, long time it was something I never told my parents about and my family about. I never told them that I have given up on graphic and design, and here is why I have given up. So I have given up because I thought I wasn't good enough. And it's a longer story, but teachers were mean to me. For example, Mrs. Abderska, she also works in Schindler's factory, by the way. I believe she's gypsy. And she gave us a task, and we had to do a poster, and out of the given letter, so I got a letter H, which for me is like, Hebrew, perhaps, possibly, because what I did on that poster was the letter H, in which there was included a fork and a knife, and that stands for a restaurant. When you think of it, well, in Tarnów and in any other place around Poland, there were a lot of Jewish restaurants or Jewish tenant houses, symbolically it can expound and include that meaning too. Perhaps, right? And and the entire poster was blue. It was black and blue. So the fork and the knife were black and blue. And I'm sorry, the fork and the knife were black, and the entire thing behind it, the background was just blue. In the and I didn't know that it actually was you know a symbolic design that would tell me more. So during that time, I thought, oh, it wasn't good. It didn't go well. And I told my friend sitting next to me that I would like to have letter F. And Ms. Zabdirska told me, um, oh, maybe you're jealous of your friends doing well. And basically, I didn't like my friend's design. So I wasn't jealous. But I also think it's for women when they feel jealous about other women and jealous basically, then they feel a little bit down about it and ashamed of themselves when they're, for example, caught on acting in a jealous way or being perceived as jealous. So I didn't feel fine when she said something like that. And for me, when you are a 40 years old woman, then when you say that, you know precisely what you say. Because I worked as an English teacher, and I can tell you that I never said such a thing like Ms. Zobderska told me, or other teacher told me. I never did that. Um, Yeah, because sometimes we can just explain ourselves that our teacher had a worse day, but when you stand there and when you are a teacher, you know that there are things you don't want. That there's no point saying, that you have no rights to say. Um, and then we had lithography teacher, and we were doing the thing in a linoleum, and my project depicted two mannequins from the Windows ill. So I would go to the shopping center, and I would just look at the Windows ill, and I would draw those artificial, not moving mannequins. So I had two of them, and they had also prizes. If I remember it well, they had prizes on them too. And I was doing them. And when I was doing it, he just approached me, my teacher, and he started to yell at me that I made at the wrong line, that it wasn't what it was supposed to be, but it was my project, so it's my decision. How is the line gonna look like? And then I was supposed to put the second line, and when you work in linoleum, your line is very permanent. So I was like scared, like how should I put this line when he told me this line was wrong. But the ending result was that I was happy about the overall impression that work made on me. Um, yeah, okay. And then comes photography teacher, very similar to Przemek's mom. So I used to date Przemek. He was gypsy. He had a very, very small mom. Or in Greece, I did a foreign practice, and there was, the owner's wife. She was British. She was very short. She had this, men's type of haircut. And I would say my photography teacher was very similar to this one, too. Okay. So she asked us to uh, make a photo shoot. Everybody got a different, I'm not sure if that was animal, probably a different animal, because I got fish. So I bought mackerel, and I started to take photos of it. And even her assistant a little bit helped me with the lights and so on. And the film was exposed, and I had to buy yet another fish, and I had to buy yet a new film, and I had to, put some time into doing it once again. And even with camera obscura, I couldn't do it on my own. So my former photography teacher helped me with it, did it instead of me. Yeah, and is there anything else over here? Yeah, there's more. Justina, when it comes to Illustrator, I just couldn't make it. It didn't work. So my friend from studies, Justina, would help me with the homework, or she would even do one homework for me for money. So I felt like a horrible person. And then we had yet another program for, doing fairy tales. It was called Blender. And whenever I just download the version, then I would watch a trailer saying, not trailer, but you have all those films telling you that you can, you can watch how to make something. Everything is online, everything is provided online, and you watch it, and they say, oh, and here it doesn't work, you have to download the newest version. And then you download the new version, and you see yet another, instructory video telling you, download yet another newer version. And it was all the time like that. And whenever I had to download it, I struggled a lot. It took me a lot of time, and I couldn't do anything in it, really. So this is where Christian would do my homework for money. And yet again, I felt like I was done. And even my brother-in-law had to do my IT homework, like doing the website for me. And yet again, I felt like I was just not good enough, and those studies were not for me, and I could never picture myself working as a designer. And here is the thing. I have discovered that such instructory videos telling you how to do something are done on purpose to mislead you. Not all of them, but there are those types of films made by occultists on purpose. Why and how did I discover it? Well, I was doing my book with Piglet. I had to do my website on my own, and I did it. It was possible. Wow, it worked. But there is one more thing, Finally, in the very basic program for writing, which is Word, everybody knows Word. In the very basic program, I couldn't move my cover of the book of Piglet to the side. I couldn't make it bigger so that it could stick to the edges, just to make it bigger so that it looks nice and neat, and just the basic thing. No, it didn't work. And then I went online and I thought, okay, so let's just check it with options. Let's check some instructory video telling me how to move the picture in Word. You know what I learned? That you can't move it, that this is pretty much what you can do. And I'm like, you know what? This is a lie. This is how I discovered that people go online, not just, occultists do, and they create a video from which you, as a recipient, you're supposed to learn something, and they give you on purpose information that is not true. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else I would like to add here? Oh, yeah. All that experience with studying just made me believe that I wasn't good enough. Paying to somebody else to do my task for me just made me feel horrible. Like, yeah. And there were even, the times when I would try to use somebody else's project, like, yeah, like the book cover of the existing book for psychology, and I introduced it as my postcard for, the group of actors. Nobody, told me that I was, obliged to do that, but yeah. So pretty much, it's pretty much my entire psychology and the psychology of Aries out there that speaks about self-reliance and creating a false identity just because you couldn't cope with something, you couldn't perform something, so you took a shortcut instead of saying, "Can I just get more time for it because I really don't know how to do that?" Yeah. And yeah, and then adding more and more secrets and just pretending that you did homework that you could not. Yeah. Okay. So if you want to learn more about my book Piglet, if you want to learn more about the way a system works, if you want to learn more about my experience with people who were actually there to act out scenes for me, to pretend in front of me, drop me a line at elkinga788@gmail.com. And if you want to check out my course, Amelia, then click the link in the description of this film. You'll find all the info in the link below, and on my website and on my Instagram and Facebook account. So if you like this video, hit the like button and share it with other people.